Well, of course, civil society organizations are also speaking out on what is happening in the Gambia. In fact, Kumi Naidoo is the launch director of an organization called Africa Rising for Justice, Peace and Dignity. And he's just led a delegation into Gambia to speak to those on the ground and assess the situation there. Our team in Senegal spoke to him a little earlier about what he encountered.
At one level, there's a sense of normalcy in the sense that there's no troops at the airport or on the streets, and there's no heavy military presence at all. However, when you look beyond that, you find that the schooling system is virtually at a standstill, partly as a combination of teachers leaving the country out of fear or leaving Banjul for rural areas as a result of concerns about family safety. Lots of children have been taken out of the country in the thousands, mainly to Senegal, but also to Guinea-Conakry, Mali, and Ghana. So schooling has virtually stopped. University is the same. The health system is heavily constrained right now because, again, nurses and doctors and other health professionals have left. There's a severe curtailment of the media. We hear that certain radio stations just play music at the moment.
Well, of course, as I mentioned, we do indeed have a team on the ground that is trying to keep tabs on developments in the Gambia. Of course, we're joined now by CGTN's Sonia Murthy, who is live in Dakar. Sonia, of course, we are receiving reports of people attempting to flee Gambia and coming into Senegal. Can you tell us more about the current situation in Gambia right now?
Indeed, Lindy, we are actually in Funjun, which is about 7 hours from Dakar, and it's actually maybe 50 minutes from here you get into the Gambia. And this is Funjun River, where most of those trying to flee are crossing using a ferry to get to Senegal. Most would have relatives there who are in exile, or actually families who work in Senegal or who chose to prefer the life in Senegal. And just coming in this evening, we actually met a few people, families, mostly women and children, who are trying to get into Senegal to be with their families. According to the UN here, they say that they're assessing the situation. We haven't seen yet any IDP camps. We do know most of those who are fleeing, we are told between 6,000 and 8,000 people have left the Gambia for Senegal, or have left the capital to rural areas where they feel safe or they need to be with their families. Today we saw about 20-30 people. There are buses waiting for them to get on, and those who are leaving, they still hope. They're still hopeful. They have hope. They're saying that they believe that things will work out in the end. A few of them say they understand what a military incursion will mean for them. As mentioned earlier in that interview, their things have basically come to a standstill, most things. So a few people are fleeing, yes, and we're yet to see a refugee situation, but we have met a few people who are fleeing for their safety. I must mention also we've met a few people who are coming back. They're saying that they now believe that it's peaceful, and they believe in the president incumbent saying that they want a peaceful country, and they're going back to see what happens in the next 90 days during this state of emergency.
And what's quite interesting, while some people may be leaving and countries like Nigeria still considering a military intervention, President-elect Barrow plans to be back on Gambian soil to take the oath for presidency and the oath of office. Do you know when exactly he might be expected to be back in Banjul, and whether or not there have been arrangements made for his security?
We do know ECOWAS had requested that the West African nations provide security for him. In fact, Nigeria promised about 800 army men, to come into the country. We know that Barrow is staying somewhere that not many people know where he's staying with his family, but as he said, he plans to be sworn in his country. There were suggestions that it's done here, but he wants to be inaugurated there. And according to Jame, he says that he will wait for the court hearing, for the injunction to actually stop the inauguration. So this 90 days will be tense for most. There is a lot of security. We haven't seen a lot of army on the ground in the airport in Banjul, but here where we are at the border, we have seen quite a few military officials, and we know Senegal will probably lead this mission to intervene, but most of the military will indeed come from Nigeria. We'll confirm shortly, because Barrow as well is going to give a statement later today or tomorrow morning. with the details of his departure, assuming it will be kept under wraps, and his arrival, his departure will be probably accompanied by a lot of army officials and also officials from the ECOWAS and the AU.
Well, Sonny Matthew, thank you very much for that update. Of course, joining us there just across the border from Gambia in Senegal.